Welcome back to Bitcoin News Weekly Live. I'm your host, Rob Wallace. This past week, something remarkable happened twice. When Bitcoiners pushed back on policies that threatened our ecosystem, both Google and the US Treasury were forced to reverse course immediately. First, the bombshell. Just 4 days ago, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent shook markets, saying the US would not be buying Bitcoin for a strategic reserve, only holding what's been confiscated. For a moment, it looked like the Trump administration was abandoning its Bitcoin superpower promise. The backlash was instant, and within 12 hours, yes, just 12 hours, Bessent changed his tone. He pledged to expand the reserve and reaffirmed the president's commitment. Then came Google. A new policy update looked like a death sentence for wallets on the Bitcoin Play Store. Non-custodial Bitcoin wallets need a financial license? Well, Jack Dorsey blasted it and the community erupted. And one day later, Google walked it back. Non-custodial wallets are now deemed safe. Think about that. The man in charge of America's finances and one of the world's biggest tech companies, both made to retreat because Bitcoiners demanded it. That's real power. Today, we're breaking down both reversals, what they mean for Bitcoin's trajectory, and the three signals I'm watching to see if this momentum continues. Because if this week taught us anything, we're more than just participants. We are driving this market. So yes, let's get into it. Today, I am very glad to be joined by Emilio, the CEO of Unbank. Sir, how are you doing today?
Good, Rob. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. There are lots of headlines that we'll be going over this day as part of our recap of Bitcoin News Weekly, our weekly newsletter that comes out every Monday morning straight into your inbox, 7 a.m., covering all the biggest headlines in Bitcoin. And there are actually some headlines that affect you and your business directly over at Unbank. So before we dive into the show, Emilio, please share with us what you're doing over at Unbank.
Absolutely, Rob. So we've been in this space for a little over 11 years. Started this company back in April of 2014 as a way for people to easily purchase Bitcoin with cash, like physical cash. Um, at the time, I had been buying on localbitcoins.com, which could be a hit or miss depending on the seller. Otherwise, I was wiring to Mt. Gox in Japan, and we all know what happened there. So I just wanted an easy way to connect people and have an alternative payment method as opposed to a ACH, wire, or debit card that you might see on Coinbase. So we allow people to purchase with cash and send it directly to their non-custodial wallet. So that's what we're doing here at Unbank.
Nice, very cool. And we just did a feature on you guys, and there's been some updates in terms of your Lightning capabilities on your mobile app. What's going on there?
Yeah, so we use BTC Pay server on the back end, which is a really cool free open source project that you can get involved with if you want to accept Bitcoin payments. But we have a voltage integration in BTC Pay that allows us to have them as our Lightning provider. Makes it really easy. I'm an on-chain guy. I've been in the space for a while, and obviously managing my company is pretty complex. So I'm still learning about Lightning. I'll say that. I've used it a lot, abroad, not really too much in the US, but for BTC Prague, as well as some places I've been to in Scotland to pay for coffee and things like that. But really cool. It's just very complex, especially when you have a small team. We have a small team of 23 people, so we wanted to have Voltage handle all of that for us. So they
Mhm.
do a great job, and we use it on the cash out side. So we've partnered with NCR with their All Point ATM network. So you can basically on our app sell your Bitcoin and withdraw cash in 30 seconds or so. Actually, the Lightning network is faster than our API, so that's really the delay on our end.
No, that's super cool. So, I mean, it's a non-custodial wallet, right? Like you can just send the Bitcoin and you get cash right back. Yeah.
Yeah, so our architecture is pretty simple. We just generate an invoice and you pay it, similar to like buying something with Lightning. So
Cool.
if you want to sell $100, we generate an invoice for $100. You pay it through whatever Lightning wallet you have. If it's Satoshi wallet or sorry, wallet of Satoshi or Speed wallet or one of those. Breeze is a good one as well. You can do that on your end. We don't hold the funds, and then we generate a cash code that you can just use. Just type in your phone number and the cash code, and then the cash spits out of the machine. And that's at 23,000 locations in the U.S.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's amazing about Unbank is that you guys make it really possible to live on a Bitcoin standard even in a fiat world, right? And yeah, I mean, one thing you say is that a lot of people who have all their money in Bitcoin, but they need to pay rent, boom, they can transfer over some Bitcoin, turn it into cash real quick, and pay their landlord.
Yeah, that's a big thing for us. Like at the end of the month or sometimes in the beginning, we'll have a lot of our customers selling their Bitcoin to pay their rent and stuff like that, other bills. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And then if they have any leftover cash, they can always buy some Bitcoin, and we make that really easy too. At CVS, you just go to the cash register, scan a barcode, give the cashier cash, and then get sent directly to your Lightning wallet or on chain if you want to do that as well.
Yeah, and you don't need to show any ID to do that, right? You just hand them the cash and you get your Bitcoin.
That's right. Yeah. On the buy side, we are required by the Green Dot Network to ID people, but on the sell side, it's a little bit more flexible. That's just how it goes. Unfortunately, that's how the regulations permit, but still a pretty cool product.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, we've got lots of things to talk about in terms of wallets on that Google App Store, some Bitcoin ATM laws in Wisconsin, and a whole large lineup of very interesting headlines from the last week. We here at Bitcoin News, we put out this newsletter, Bitcoin News Weekly, where we what do we do? We talk about all the headlines. So you don't have to spend your whole entire life scrolling on X and Noster and Telegram like we do. So you can just join us every single Monday morning, 11 a.m. for this live stream, and we got you covered. This week's edition is called Bitcoiners Flex Power as Google and Treasury bow to backlash. From Silicon Valley to Washington, Bitcoiners are calling out bad policy and shaping agenda. So the first headline we got to cover is, of course, join us on YouTube as well as X, LinkedIn. We're all over. We do this live everywhere. But this first headline is Google Play Store announces that non-custodial wallets now need government licenses. But after pushback from Bitcoiners, including Jack Dorsey, they reversed, saying the policy doesn't apply. So this was caused quite the ruckus. This reporting came out of The Rage, founded by Lola Leitz, who does great work over there covering the recent trials of course, the Samurai Wallet devs, as well as Roman Storm and Tornado Cash. But they put out an article about the new Google Play Store policy forces AML KYC on non-custodial wallets in the US, effectively banning non-custodial wallet developers from the Play Store in the EU and the US. So then we had Jack Dorsey. He just quote tweeted this, said, terrible. And then Google says, oh my God, thanks for flagging this. Non-custodial wallets are not in scope of Google Play's cryptocurrency exchanges and software wallets policy. We are updating the help center to make this clear. So before we dive deeper into this, Emilio, were you abreast of this as it was happening last week?
Yeah, I did catch that on X. The interesting thing is Google used to be a lot better about this pre-COVID, but then they stopped offering support. They started outsourcing more of their review to poorer Asian countries, and they stopped really giving a shit. So we've seen this with Google Ads. We've seen this on the App Store. It's kind of a mess.
Mm.
You know, you'll provide them licenses, and then they'll come back and say you need to provide those licenses again. It's a really odd thing. I don't think that they're kind of in tune. Different departments don't have the same data that you provided one department. It's a real mess. And I did see that BitChat was one of those affected, although it's not a wallet, but it kind of goes on the same principle of these imposter apps that get that get added to the store, and but then the real thing is denied, right?
Yeah.
I do think that it's really important for Google to review to make sure that the wallets that are approved are actually legitimate. I know people have lost funds uh, with attackers publishing different imposter wallets and just draining people's crypto holdings. But yeah, I think Google needs to do a better job.
Yeah, I mean, it's this mega corporation, right? And they've got lots of different things to keep tabs on, of course, but this is extremely important. We're dealing with real money. Bitcoin has gone up in value, of course, exponentially over the last 15 years, and people put their life savings in it. And some people have their life savings on an Android phone. And so if you are, of course, putting up imposter apps or are blocking legitimate apps, there's serious problems here, and it needs to be taken seriously. And yeah, if we look over at what Lola said after this all got cleared up, she said, Google has changed its Play Store policy in response to our reporting, and here's why this is a big deal for developers. Since our story yesterday, several people reached out to me about Google Play Store delisting non-custodial wallets well before the policy in question came into effect in July, asking for local licenses under what was previously known as their blockchain-based content policy. So did you have to deal with this when you were getting the app up?
Yeah, so yeah, we did have to deal with that. The only thing I'll say about this is their policy and their support, they're not on the same page.
Mm,
So their support doesn't really understand their policy, and then the policy doesn't understand that support doesn't quite get it. So you'll get a lot of conflicting information and pushback depending on where you are in app submission or even in Google Ads. So it's a really strange dynamic, and I think that just all goes back to the fact that they outsourced a lot of the support overseas. I'm not
mhm.
even sure if they're really Google employees, more so just third parties that review. Um, and yeah, it just goes across from the App Store to Google My Business to Google Ads. I think that all of their products are kind of affected by this. In fact, 3 months ago, I actually sued Google, and next week I think I'll be going to court here in South Florida. Um, I think Google's trying to dismiss the case, but I'm still looking to go. It was a Google My Business issue, but yeah, they don't offer support anymore, and that's
Mm.
a huge problem.
Wow, you're taking Google to court. I mean, can you delve into that a little bit more, or is it just needs to be?
Yeah, yeah. So so someone decided to make my personal home a public restroom on Google Maps, and yeah, it was a really odd thing to happen, and they put my phone number and they somehow verified that it was a public restroom. Um, I have no idea how they did it, but yeah, we sent the subpoena to Google to figure out a little bit more information about this. They haven't really responded. They tried to dismiss it. So yeah, taking
Wow.
them to, to small claims court. I didn't want to make it a huge thing, but
Mhm.
yeah, I mean they don't offer support. It's impossible to get Google to actually do their job.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I think that's well, best of luck in your case. Absolutely. That's extremely annoying to have to go through that. But it does seem as if the power of Bitcoiners to rise up and have their voice heard did make a difference in this case in particular, right? So Electrum Wallet, they were taken off the App Store for 100 days to try to get this fixed because they were auto banned and flagged. But by fixing their newest policy to now specifically exempting non-custodial wallets, non-custodial wallet developers will no longer have to prove that they don't need a license if they are flagged, but can simply point to the fact that they are non-custodial application, referencing Google's own policy. So yes, this was a big deal last week, and I think it just goes to prove that Bitcoiners. We are quite the contingent now, right? We played a factor in the last election, and now we are having Google take a step back and have to figure out what's going on in their own backyard when they have this messy situation between policy and support, as you said. So yeah, I mean, does that show you that the Bitcoiners have some power, some sway in this world right now?
Yeah, I think so. Although I will say that policy is different from the actual support, right?
Hmm.
So even though Google changed their policy, a lot of wallets might still face backlash behind the scenes, and if they don't have a huge X presence, they might not be able to be heard, and they might still have to go through some hoops. A lot of these non-custodial wallets allow services like MoonPay or some other on-ramp services. And Google might see that as a way for them to still kind of qualify for those laws and provide licenses. So
Hmm.
it'd be really interesting to see what they think about those types of wallets that allow off ramps or on ramps, even if they're non-custodial, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think these recent cases that we've seen with the Samurai and Tornado Cash, it's really about the definition, right? Of like what is a money transmitter business. Are you guys technically a money transmitter business? Do you have those licenses? Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So federally, yes, and then state, it really depends. We're licensed right now in 23 different states. More and more states are requiring the state-specific licenses. So we've been applying to a whole slew of other ones as well.
And has that gotten easier over time, that application process, or is it just as difficult as when you started?
It's just as difficult. I think that's why US is kind of behind on the whole fintech scene.
Mhm.
Federally it's pretty simple, but all states have different licenses and regulations, different criteria. It can be really, really complex. So I personally I don't think states should be able to regulate money transmitters. I think it should be a federal thing, just so it's unified. um, but yeah, here we are, and it is federally and state specific interpretations.
Well, you've seen Bitcoin adoption around the world. Where do you think is doing it best right now in terms of the top-down approach from the government allowing these things to go through?
I can't say for certain, but I will say that I don't think Europe and the US are doing it correctly. Um, I don't really know what country would be doing it correctly, but I know Europe and US are definitely not doing it correctly.
Yeah, I hear you. Europe even more so, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's a crazy place. I feel bad for beautiful place, but they regulate bottle caps, so it's hard to
Yeah.
say that they want to regulate everything. So
Yeah, they make it hard to do business, right? And it definitely discourages the youth from trying to go out and make a difference, start up a business. You got to have like 120,000 euros in your bank account just to start a business in some of these countries. Like, it makes no sense. It's completely discriminatory against entrepreneurship. And that's one way to definitely hold your society back.
yeah, very classist.
Very classist. Yes, yes. Well, in America, we do have entrepreneurs and we do have them pushing boundaries. And one such entrepreneur is Jeff Bezos. Love him or hate him. He is in the space race as well with his company, Blue Origin. And last week, they announced that they are accepting Bitcoin for payments on their spaceship. One person who took them up on this was Justin Sun. I know that he's going up in space with, with Jeff Bezos. But it's just interesting, right, to see Bitcoin being starting to be accepted for all different kinds of things. It's actually super interesting. I think Richard Branson said that he would accept Bitcoin for rides on the Virgin Atlantic rocket. I don't know if that's ever even taken off the ground, but this was a decade ago that he said that he would accept Bitcoin for that. But you have been in Bitcoin for forever. What is one of the wildest things that you have spent Bitcoin on that you can remember?
Oh man. Yeah, there's one purchase in particular that I really regret. I remember at a Bitcoin conference in Washington D.C., I bought a barcode scanner with Bitcoin. It was $80 at the time, and I think it was like, geez, it was more than half a Bitcoin, I think. So I really regret that purchase. And I never really used the barcode scanner, so it was just a pointless purchase, and I really wish I could get that Bitcoin back.
I hear
Um,
you.
But yeah, no, Virgin Galactic. I remember that back in 2013, I was ready to part with some Bitcoin to go up to space, and that was like 12 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Justin's son going to space. Is he? I didn't hear about this, but I'm not surprised, right? Is he going with Jeff Bezos on the rocket, or what's going on here?
No, they're doing these like you can pay to get on this ship, right? And I think they want some celebrities. They had Katy Perry go up, you know.
I remember, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
But is
that'd be
is
good.
is Jeff himself going with Justin Sun?
I don't think so. I think this is another one of those paid trips that he
Okay,
and Jeff himself, I think he's been up once maybe, but
okay.
I don't know. Now he's just sending other multimillionaires up there who want to ride. But yeah, I mean Justin Sun, he's got sort of the main character syndrome going on right now. Really can't get himself out of the headlines. He's got hundreds of millions of dollars worth of World Liberty Fi. He's getting close with the Trumps. He's the biggest Trump coin holder. He's all over the place. But that's enough of him. We don't need to talk about Justin Sun on the Bitcoin News Weekly live stream.
Well,
Why don't
yeah. One more thing. I
oh,
hope he goes up there and he never comes back down. That's that's my thought on Justin Sun. He's a serial scammer, and I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, I mean, you've been in the space for a while, so you've seen his shenanigans. Do you have anything in particular to say about him, or is that enough?
I'm just surprised that he's not in jail. He's run Hoiby over there for a little while. They're just laundering a whole bunch of money. I have no idea how the guy is still not in prison, and I don't even know how he's allowed to step foot in the U.S.
Yeah.
So
Well,
wild.
yeah, he seems to have put a lot of money in the right places, quote unquote, to evade scrutiny. I mean, the SEC a couple months ago dropped their case against him, right after he became the largest donor or owner of the Trump meme coin and investor in World Liberty Fi. So there's definitely something going on over there. But yeah, if you've got enough, and another interesting thing about him. Bloomberg, like, it did a piece on him, and he
Yeah.
wanted to flaunt about his worth, but then it came out that he owns $60 billion worth of, I think, Tether on Tron, right? Or something like,
Or he owns 20 billion worth of Tron. So it's like a pre-mine scam
oh
that
my
we used to see back in the day with all those alt currencies on Bitcoin talk.
unbelievable. But hey, I mean, it does sort of feel as if as we enter into this terminal stage of the fiat world, where it's open scam season, right? Where gambling is everywhere. People just want to try to flip their money as quickly as possible because that's what happens when money dies, right? Go look at Weimar Germany, and you'll see gambling was extremely prevalent, just as it is today. But in brighter news, in the adoption section, we can look over at El Salvador. And they are now the first country in the world to teach Bitcoin to all students aged 7 and up. So they've got by far the best Bitcoin education program in the world. Started with grassroots programs outside of the government's jurisdiction, right? With Me Premier Bitcoin starting 4 years ago and offering Bitcoin diplomas, but that's for older students in high school. Then they started teaching the high school teachers in El Salvador, and now that is transitioning all the way down to kids in second and third grade getting a Bitcoin education. Yes, have you been to El Salvador, and what do you think about the Bitcoin education initiatives going on over there?
I haven't been to El Salvador yet, but I have a family member who has a business down there. She just started it about 7 months ago or so. It's a health food store, so I got to go visit at some point. And yeah, super cool that they're doing that. I know I'm gonna have a daughter in about a month, so I'll be teaching her about Bitcoin as well.
Nice, congrats.
Thank you.
Is your sister, is she a Bitcoiner?
Oh no, not my sister, but
Okay,
yeah, my yeah, a family member of
family
mine.
member.
Yeah, she actually is. Yep. And I
Nice.
got her to accept Bitcoin.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. So she went down to Bitcoin country to start a business. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very nice. Cool. So, yes, now zooming back out and zooming into America, our legal section is pretty thick this week. And one that's directly, I think, affects your business a bit. So, we've got the Wisconsin Senate Bill 386 would force Bitcoin ATM operators to get money transmitter licenses and collect full customer data, effectively turning them into KYC kiosks. So yeah, they are pushing pretty hard. I've seen numerous news pieces on local TV stations across the country over the last couple of weeks talking about Bitcoin ATMs and trying to protect people from getting scammed, right? So I mean, even my own father got a call from somebody saying that they were with the power company and that they were going to shut down the power for their house immediately unless they sent a couple $100s through a Bitcoin ATM at the local convenience store, right? And so I think those type of things are what they're trying to protect here. But is this a step too far? And is it just a totalitarian toe step where they just get closer and closer to getting full KYC information on everything that you do financially? Where do you stand on this? And do you think that there is a middle line to draw here?
Yeah. So, Rob, I hope your dad didn't send that
He did
money.
not. He called me, thankfully, and I
Okay.
got him.
Thank God. Yeah, I mean, we see this a lot, unfortunately. Wisconsin's not the only state that's requiring full KYC now. It's Minnesota, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maryland. There's probably a couple others that I'm forgetting. More and more are popping up. Colorado has one that starts the first of the new year. Um, so it's a more prevalent thing. It's actually due to AARP lobbying a lot of these states to regulate Bitcoin ATMs and kind of set KYC requirements as well as limits on how much someone can buy in a day or a month. Iowa is also one of them. Oklahoma recently passed something. So yeah, it's more and more prevalent. Um, it's really hard to say if this is a good thing. I know for customers that obviously have been using our services for a while and are not getting scammed, it sucks. But for older people, it's it's actually shocking how the brain just declines as you age.
Mm,
We have warnings, twice specifically for to prevent these types of scams before a transaction is made. We interview people on the phone, and still people get scammed. So
mhm,
I really don't know what to say. I mean, if they can get scammed off of two warning screens, a phone interview, imagine how they're getting scammed on Coinbase, right?
mhm,
Um, you know, Coinbase doesn't really have any of those warnings. They allow wires, ACH, all that stuff. They're not interviewing their customers, right? So I do think it's a little bit far for Bitcoin ATMs. I think it's targeting kind of like a war on cash specifically. But yeah, I would love to see the stats on people getting scammed at Coinbase or Cash App for older people.
yeah.
I'm sure it's much more than at Bitcoin ATMs.
For bigger sums too, right?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you can't you can't wire or you can't bring $100,000 cash to a Bitcoin ATM, right?
Mm-mm.
So I mean, if you can wire $100,000 to Coinbase, I mean, poof, that money is going to be gone.
Yeah.
I mean, you can wire even more, right?
Yeah.
So I do think it's targeting kind of cash based
Yeah.
transactions. Um, I'm not sure if that's really preventing anything. KYCing someone, what is that really going to do if they don't heed the warnings? Is it really going to prevent them from being scammed?
Mhm.
No, in my opinion, no. It's not going to prevent that. But yeah, that's those are the state regulations that a lot of these states are taking up.
If anybody listening or watching has an older relative, what are some red flags that you could warn them about to be like, if you get this kind of call, they're talking about Bitcoin ATM, don't do this. Is there anything that you see happen again and again?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone calls you on the phone, right? you gotta not listen to a single thing that they say. You just gotta hang up the phone call. If there's official communication that's gonna come, it's gonna come in a letter in the mail, right? And I hope scammers don't start sending letters in the mail because that would be a nightmare. But yeah, it would be at the mail. You get an overdraft, right? You're gonna get a letter in the mail, right? You
Mhm.
you could always, if even if you believe what someone says on the phone, you could always go to your local branch or call your bank directly from the number that they provide on their website, and from there you can go about seeing if you're susceptible to whatever scheme that they come up with to get you to part with their money.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to call you, right? Coinbase is not going to call you. The electric company is not going to call you and tell you that you need to pay them over a Bitcoin ATM immediately or your power is going to get shut off. But as you said, I mean, people get scared, right? And when somebody calls them with an authoritative voice and they start passing them around to different people in different departments, who are and also because of KYC leaks and whatnot, they have information on you too, right? They know your address, they can know certain things about you, your date of birth, whatnot. And that gives them quote unquote credibility for people who are not expecting these scams and afraid of these things. So yeah, again, as we see more gambling, we're also going to see more scamming in this society. So definitely stay vigilant and keep those around you in the know and aware of what's going on.
Yeah, if the US really wanted to stop these scams, I think they should start regulating these telecommunication companies to start blocking these calls or text messages. I mean, I get like two or three Coinbase text messages a day.
Hmm.
Obviously they're scams. I haven't had a Coinbase account since 2014, since they shut down my account. So, obviously, I was probably involved in some sort of Coinbase data leak that may or may not have ever been reported. Um, but yeah, here we are. So, yeah, definitely stay vigilant. If anyone tells you to do something over the phone, I truly would not believe a thing they say, and definitely tell your parents or your grandparents not to listen.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's crazy times out there. Crazy times.
Yeah.
Um, and keeping with the crazy times, we have Alina Voronova, founder of Satoshi Labs. She warns that in 2025, personal risks for Bitcoin investors are at an all-time high. Her quote from a recent conference is, "Every week, at least one Bitcoiner worldwide is kidnapped, tortured, extorted, or worse." This is pretty strong words, but this is what happens from leaks of KYC data. They know who has bought some Bitcoin in the past, and they can target you. And so we see this a lot, especially in the last year in France. This is a almost it happens multiple times a week over there. Crypto executives, people who are loud on social media about their different crypto holdings, they're getting targeted. They're getting kidnapped, and we are seeing this, of course, the rise of the $5 wrench attack. Uh, so yes, what do you think about this? And have you heard of any different ways that people are protecting themselves from these types of attacks? And yeah, what do you think is the current state of Bitcoin OPSEC?
Yeah, I'm not surprised it's happening in Europe, especially France. I think France is almost a second or third world country at this point. And the fact that you can't really have a gun
Mm,
probably makes it a really enticing place to kidnap and torture people for their Bitcoin. Here in the U.S., fortunately, if you live in a good state, you can have as many guns as you want, and if someone comes knocking, you can blow their head off. So you just have to pick the right state. You can't live in New York City or someplace like that. But yeah, if you want to protect yourself, you can. So it's something that you really can't do in Europe. At least most of the European countries. I know some of them are a little bit more lax. I think Poland's pretty good. Czech is pretty good. The other ones not so great. So if you're an executive or an investor that has a lot of Bitcoin, and you tell people that you have a lot of Bitcoin, be prepared to hide or kind of not tell people where you live.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what I would suggest.
Yeah, and now we're seeing the rise of insurance, right? There's Anchorwatch who's offering insurance for Bitcoin holdings, and I think they also offer a service that is like 24/7 that helps you negotiate if you're taken or a family member is taken. You can talk to an expert and they can help you get on the phone. But I guess my biggest piece of advice that we've learned from these France attacks: never let them take you in the van. Never get in the van. Do everything you can in your power to stay out of the van. But yeah, but I mean, Bitcoiners, part of our ethos, you gotta be fit, right? Mentally, spiritually, physically, and keep your wits about you. And also be careful what you put online. Don't brag. Bragging definitely attracts a lot of this, and I think that's one great thing about Bitcoin culture compared to, say, crypto culture. Crypto loves the Lambos and the showing off, whereas Bitcoiners, you don't ask anybody's Bitcoin stack. You just don't do that. You're excommunicated pretty quickly if you're trying to get to how much Bitcoin people own, right? So
Yeah, I mean, personally, I know, Rob, I know you lost all your Bitcoin in a boating accident, as did I. Different boating accidents, but I mean, we're all trying to stack
scrape by, dude.
200,000 sats. That's
Trying to
right.
get yes, yes. It's been hard, but that's why we're out here working every single day, trying to provide the best Bitcoin news to try to get back that stack that was once lost in a boating accident.
There we go.
But some people that don't need to worry about boating accidents or losing their Bitcoin at this moment are the big funds. BlackRock's IBIT hits a new record, $91 billion worth of Bitcoin. They've got close to 750,000 Bitcoin right now, more than Michael Saylor over at Strategy with around 650,000. But yeah, BlackRock now holds 3.72% of all Bitcoin and pulling in inflows even after a $1 billion market wipeout on the hot inflation data last week. So yeah, does this number concern you? The fact that BlackRock has 3.72% of all Bitcoin in circulation.
Honestly, it doesn't concern me. I think that's pretty cool. I
Mm.
actually missed this news, but a lot of the institutional stuff I kind of ignore. But I mean, I think that's great for them. I'd rather have them have Bitcoin than all of the housing in America. So
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. Definitely. So yes, and another great thing about Bitcoin, of course, is that the greater percent of the total that you own doesn't give you any more power than anybody else, right? As long as you hold the private keys, you have access to the ledger, and you can make a change on that ledger by sending your Bitcoin to another wallet. And having more of it doesn't give you more power, as we've seen with ETH and their proof of stake, of course. And yeah, I mean, actually, one chart I gotta show to you that's just came up this weekend, yesterday, that we posted, showing the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, is that when you stake Ethereum, you can't just sell it immediately, right? There is a lockup period, and you have to sit in a line for weeks in order to sell your staked ETH. But we can see that back in July 15th, just a month ago, there was zero ETH looking to exit the validators. Now there's close to 900,000, $4 billion
wow.
worth of ETH is trying to be removed from validators to be sold, right? I mean, ETH has been in a really bad position for 2 years now, plus. And so now that they're getting their head back above water, close to all-time highs for their coin, they are looking to sell. So this will definitely add a lot of selling pressure to ETH. But this is a Bitcoin show, not an ETH show. We just got to show the difference between the two and what makes Bitcoin better. And one person or one team that has realized that Bitcoin is better is Nordis Bank, the world's largest sovereign wealth fund with $1.9 trillion worth of assets. They boosted their Bitcoin exposure in Q2 by 83%, going from 6,200 to 11,400 Bitcoin worth of exposure. and it's mostly through strategy shares. And they've also invested a little in Metaplanet. So, yeah, sovereign wealth funds. Do you think that that is a going to be part of the narrative this cycle, or that we're going to have to wait to see more of the largest funds in the world invest into Bitcoin in this way?
I honestly, I can't say for certain, but I mean, I think it's really cool that they're investing in Bitcoin. Um, I don't really know too much about the institutional side, but
Yeah.
great that they have exposure. I mean, eh, at least it's now, right?
Hmm.
I would have said it's better a long time ago, but a lot of these institutions were really scared early on. So I'm just a little bit surprised that they're getting on so late, but I guess it's better late than never at all, right?
And but I mean, part of your job is you have to talk to these financial institutions. And has those conversations changed over the last year or two? Now that we've got Trump as the Bitcoin president and more lax SEC.
Honestly, at a federal level, it's really nice, right? But
Hmm.
at the state level, a lot of regulators that are unhappy with Trump's changes have implemented counteractive regulations to make it even worse, right? Um, I mean, yeah, that's unfortunate, but we saw that in California, Connecticut, a lot of these super liberal states, um, just just going really, really hard to counteract the benefits of a federal policy.
Yeah, it's still an uphill battle, right? We haven't won completely yet, but it we're making our way. We're making our way
Yeah,
up there.
yeah, there we go.
Cool. Yeah. So one more story I'd like to touch on this week, which was really cool, was Block unveils the Proto Rig. So Block, of course, is Jack Dorsey's company, and this Proto Rig is a modular Bitcoin miner with swappable hash boards and power units and fans, as well as they unveiled Proto Fleet, which is a free and open source management software aiming to cut costs, extend hardware life, and boost network decentralization. So Block has been working on their Bitcoin miner for a couple of years now, and they finally had this big unveiling last week. And this device looks really sleek. And the coolest thing about it is that it's modular. Before, if you buy one of these Bitcoin miners for $4,000, it's all together, and it's really hard to replace any broken part, and that causes downtime, and you need to be extremely efficient in order to compete in this business. So any downtime is a killer, but this makes it very easy. You can just take out these hash boards and replace them with newer chips when they get developed, and don't need to replace the whole casing, because I mean the rest of this is just a metal box with fans and a power unit, right? That's not going to change. What is going to change is the tech on the chips inside, so you can just pull those out, plug it back in. And they talked to Bitcoin miners across the world, from the largest industrial miners to the pleb miners, asking them what would make your life better as a miner. And at the end of their research process, they came out with this thing. It looks really cool. Um, and a lot of the miners that have had the chance to check it out are very enthusiastic about it. It is sort of hard to compete when on the ASIC side, when it comes to Bitmain and now MicroBT. Of course, they're over in China. They have the largest chip factories over there. But this is a great step forward for mining decentralization. To have this be produced in America and just outside of China is a huge benefit for Bitcoin mining in general. And this device looks awesome. It really makes me want to start mining again, even though it's such a hard business, and hash price is not that high these days. But this thing just looks so cool. Did you check this out this week?
I didn't see this, but this is really, really nice looking. It reminded me of like a server rack. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely is. Really, really looks enticing, especially since you don't have to throw out the whole miner once it becomes super obsolete.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the biggest benefit, right? Less e-waste and less downtime. And this thing is like it's heavy, it's big. It's like I think 110 pounds
Oh wow.
for one of these boxes. But you can just leave it on your server rack forever. Just pull out the ASIC hashboard when it needs to be upgraded and plug in a new one. So really cool stuff coming out over from Block there. And so, yes, at this point in the show, I would like to give a shout out to who? Of course, Rhino Bitcoin. Rhino is the main sponsor of the show, and they have been so good to us. And we must spread the word about how they are so good for Bitcoiners. So, Rhino Bitcoin is the all in one Bitcoin super app built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. You can buy or sell your Bitcoin instantly, send sats anywhere on the Lightning Network. And of course, you can withdraw straight to cold storage. You can turn your sats in the app into gift cards or link a Casa multisig right there to have the perfect highest level of security. And Rhino is just warming up. Soon you'll be able to pay bills, borrow against your Bitcoin, and stack for retirement without leaving the app. Download Rhino at rhinobitcoin.com or tap the link in the description below. Use code Bitcoin News, one word, Bitcoin News, and Rhino will drop you $10 in free Bitcoin into your account today. So secure your stack with Rhino Bitcoin. And let's hop right back in to the rest of the headlines. So, Emilio, I wanted to cover one more big story, and that is, of course, what we saw this last week with the Treasury Secretary. So, we can play the clip for everybody so we all on the same page, and then let's discuss.
You're talking about a number way above 750 billion. What's the story on gold?
We've got the large gold holding. I doubt we're going to revalue it, but we are going to keep it there, again, as a store of value for the American people. We've also started to get into the 21st century, a Bitcoin strategic reserve. We're not going to be buying that, but we are going to use confiscated assets and continue to build that up. We're going to stop selling that. I believe that Bitcoin reserve at today's prices is somewhere between 15 and 20 billion.
All right. So there he was last week on Fox Business, and Scott Bessent came out and he said that they were not going to be buying Bitcoin, but they have what is confiscated, right? So this was people got really confused, and the fact that he brought up the not going to be buying and the confiscation aspect that made a bunch of Bitcoiners throw up their antenna and say, "Hey, this sounds like a potential 6102 attack where they confiscate your Bitcoin." But then, of course, Bitcoiners caused a stir. And what happened next? He came out and he made a correction. He posted on X. He said, Bitcoin that has been finally forfeited to the federal government will be the foundation of the strategic Bitcoin reserve that President Trump established this March with his executive order. In addition, Treasury is committed to exploring budget neutral pathways to acquire more Bitcoin to expand the reserve and to execute on the president's promise to make the United States the Bitcoin superpower of the world. So yeah, interesting stuff. And it's also just wild that, I mean, what Bitcoiners post on X can cause the Treasury Secretary of the United States to come out and issue a correction within a matter of hours of fumbling on Fox Business. Did you see this last week?
I did. I hope it's not just hearsay kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, I know back in the day, Tim Draper bought a large chunk of Bitcoin from the U.S. government. Maybe some other institutions did on some other blocks, but yeah, it's unfortunate that we didn't hold that. I mean, of course, it was a huge win for Tim Draper, but but it's too bad that it's coming a little late. We would have a lot more Bitcoin.
Yeah. So right now, the estimate is that America has roughly 200,000 Bitcoin in the different agencies. The IRS got a FOIA from, again, Lola Leeds, great journalist, and they released that they have around 30,000 Bitcoin. But there are other agencies such as the IRS, the FBI that could be holding Bitcoin as well, right? So the question is, are they going to be buying more? And do you think that this is a good thing? Do you think that the government should be in the business of accumulating Bitcoin?
I think so. I mean, um, right now we have a huge debt problem, right? We need sound money. Gold's a little outdated, although it's probably better than, than fiat currency, obviously. But Bitcoin it should be the standard, and it should be acquired kind of how El Salvador did it. So I think that they should be aggressively purchasing Bitcoin to um, counteract their inflationary policy of the fiat currency. So yeah, Bitcoin is great, and hopefully they can acquire a lot more of it through purchasing it.
Yeah, and I mean the question here is that if the government admits that they need Bitcoin, does that really just show the world that the emperor has no clothes, right? That the dollar, even the U.S. government who issues the dollar is admitting that yeah, this currency has lost a lot of its value. We need something else in order to preserve value in this country. So it's extremely interesting place that we're in. It does seem as if I mean Trump's are in Bitcoin, right? His sons run this business called American Bitcoin. They're a Bitcoin miner, but they're looking to acquire businesses in Hong Kong and Japan to start Bitcoin treasury companies over there. DJT, the Trump media company, is a top 10 Bitcoin treasury company. So, I mean, it really does seem as if this family is aligning themselves, sort of front running this move by the government into Bitcoin. But do you think that it shows weakness on the behalf of the American government if they admit that they need Bitcoin?
Sometimes I think it's important to admit that maybe you're wrong, or you need to kind of modernize your monetary policy, right? So I think I don't think it's weakness. I think more so just admitting that Bitcoin is better.
Yeah, yeah. And one interesting way that they've been talking about to acquire Bitcoin is through a bit bond, right? Where it's you give them $100, 90 of that goes towards the bond, and then 10% goes into Bitcoin. And then you would both the government and you as the purchaser of the bond would split the Bitcoin upside at the end of the termination of the bond. So there's lots of creative ways that they could go about this, right? They're also talking about, of course, revaluing the America's gold holdings that are currently valued at $42 an ounce, where gold is now at over $3,400 an ounce. So you could create $1 trillion almost on the balance sheet in order to borrow against or use as collateral to buy more Bitcoin. So there's lots of creative ways to go about and do this. But the fact that Bitcoiners over on X and on social media were able to make Scott Bessent, man, it definitely seems like a proud guy to go and correct himself on the same day was pretty amazing to see. Um, and then one other piece I'd like to talk about today, it was a crazy proposal out of New York State. And so I'm sure with you working in a Bitcoin business, are you guys in New York? Can you operate in New York?
We used to. We stopped. So there, certain states are actually a net negative. I think California is getting to that point as well. But if you want to have a valuable company, most likely it would be more valuable if you didn't operate in those states. Of course, certain states, I mean, certain companies will take the risk, but I don't think it's worth it
Mm,
personally. And I'm from New York. I love New York to live in, maybe not to pay taxes, which is why I'm in Florida. But New York's a great place. It's just not so great for running a financial services or a fintech related company.
Well, you speak of taxes, and that's what this story is about. So, New York State Assembly member Phil Steck proposes a 0.2% excise tax on all cryptocurrency transactions in New York. He estimates it could raise $158 million annually based on chain analysis data from 2022 to 23. How insane of an idea is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's par for the course over there in New York.
Yeah.
Good luck. Good luck figuring that out. They might have to spend 160 million trying to figure out uh, where where to get the 0.2% of the excise tax. Really genius idea coming from Phil Steck. So
Insane. Yeah.
good job, buddy.
How, and I think you make a great point. The amount of money they would have to spend in order to enforce this would just eat away at any of the money that they are able to get from it. So absolutely insane. Oh, and another interesting tidbit I'd like to touch upon is what was super interesting about this whole entire Treasury announcement last week with Scott Bessent was that it was also the same day that David Bailey's Nakamoto Holdings was announcing that they had officially merged with Kindly MD and were now officially listed on the stock market as Naka, raising $500 million with another $200 million pending to go buy Bitcoin, with the plan to go out and buy 1 million Bitcoin for their reserve, right? So it's just David Bailey, of course, is the head of Bitcoin Magazine, UTXO Management, and has worked very closely with President Trump, brought him to the Bitcoin conference in 2024, brought JD Vance to Vegas just this last year in May. And now it's so funny that Scott Bessent came out this morning, caused all this FUD, and then had to issue a retraction the same day. Some people saying that there was a nudge from David Bailey. Hey, don't do this on the day I'm trying to announce my stock is getting listed on a on the stock market. So I won't force you to comment on that one, but it's crazy where Bitcoiners have got to now in this era. We're all over the map, and we're in all different pockets expressing our influence. So, Emilio, as we round out this hour, tell us what's up with Unbank for the rest of the year. Is there anything special we should be on the lookout for, and where can we learn more?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna still expand our alternative payment methods. We have some really cool ones where you can purchase Bitcoin at the register of CVS and some other large retailers like Winn-Dixie, Office Depot, right? There's even a new one coming out that I can't comment on, but it's a really, really big retailer. In fact, it's probably the biggest retailer in the whole US. So that should be really exciting if that's a hint for you guys. But of course, still allowing customers to cash out their Bitcoin if they want to pay their rent, and that's pure physical cash. So that's pretty cool. Of course, fiat currencies aren't the greatest, but if you still want to preserve a little bit of privacy, it's important to have cash, and that will always be a method that we tend to focus on. But we're looking to expand into other countries. So probably start of the new year, we'll be in some really cool ones, like possibly Canada or Latin America. So that should be really fun. Try out our app, non-custodial, really simple to use. Would love to get some feedback from some potential new customers. Try it out.
And what advice would you have for people looking to start a business in the Bitcoin space?
So, if you want to start a business in the Bitcoin space, I would focus on areas that aren't heavily regulated. You'll go down a rabbit hole of spending a lot of money to comply with certain regulations. We've been around for a while, so um, you know, it's kind of something we had to do. But if you were to want to start a business right now, maybe you could partner with some providers that kind of offload that for you, or just start a Bitcoin business that doesn't have to really submit to all these financial regulations. Maybe more of a media type of company or an educational piece. I feel like education is super a really good business to start. Of course, there's always some people that are already doing that, but still could be expanded upon. I mean, Duolingo made a whole business on teaching people new languages. You could make a whole new business on teaching people Bitcoin, just like El Salvador is to the younger generation. So I think that might be a really good one, and I don't think that will ever be regulated, so you don't have to worry about federal or state licenses.
Great advice. Yeah. And I think one thing that you're showing right now with your latest Lightning implementation is that a lot of the infrastructure on the back end is being solved, right? And so you don't need to build it from the ground up. You can leverage some of these companies like Voltage, like BTC Pay Server, and use that to your advantage in order to catapult you to fulfill any market need that there might be out there and meet people where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely. BTC Pay Server for accepting Bitcoin. Starting an e-commerce business that accepts Bitcoin is really always a good play, because you're getting Bitcoin in exchange for sending an item to your customers, right? Holding that Bitcoin and maybe cashing out a little to re-up your supply to sell more to customers. That's a really good business model, and I don't think you can really go wrong with that.
And if you got to cash out, use
There you
Unbank.
go. There you go. We won't hold your funds, so you can cash out quickly, and I think you guys would really like it.
Cheers, Emilio. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I'd love to have you on again in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Would love to.
Cheers. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Bitcoin News Weekly.